Welcome, dear students. In this session, we will examine a Middle English sample and look at its features. I hope by the end of this session, you would have an experience of how to examine a Middle English text and what are the important features that are to be noticed. Well, my dear students, the sample that I'm going to share with you is from a very famous work from the Middle Age times. The work is The Canterbury Tales. You would have come across this name, by the way, somewhere during your studies of English language or of English literature. The work was written in 1387 and by the author, the poet Geoffrey Chaucer. Chaucer is one of the greatest poets of Middle English times before Shakespeare. Well, I'm going to show you the text. As you would look at the text, I would read it out for you, somewhere focusing on the Middle English pronunciation, sometimes making it easier for you, in the modern English pronunciation so that you could understand that. The idea is to make you understand it and to try to read it with me so that you could familiarize yourself with some of the semantic, syntactic, phonological as well as morphological aspects of this text. So, this part of the text that you see on the screen right now, this is taken from the prologue to the Canterbury Tales. Prologue is a kind of introduction of all those characters that is given at the beginning of the Canterbury Tales. Canterbury Tales, just to refresh your memory in case you have forgotten or if you do not know, Canterbury Tales is the story of a group of people in Chaucer's times who travel to perform a pilgrimage and who are going towards Canterbury. This group of people has doctors and nurses and nuns and priests and monks and businessmen and all those type of people. So Chaucer has introduced to us, all these characters in a prologue where, say sometimes half of a page or sometimes from half to 1.5 of a page is devoted to, the introduction of each of these characters. Now, I'm coming towards this text. This is the introduction of a character who was a nun. She was a prioress. As we have different categories of people in religion, same is the case with Christianity, and she was a prioress. Let us try to read this text together. I would point out certain things with reference to phonology and morphology and sometimes syntax. There was also a nun, a prioress. Please notice there. That of her smiling, notice please, that of her smiling was full, simple and coy. Have you noticed the spellings of smiling? Her greatest oath was but by Saint Loy. Notice the spellings of saint. What are the spellings that we have now? How do we write it now? S-A-I-N-T. Here we have completely different representation. Notice the word greatest. How very different from today. And for that matter, oath. From uth, it has become oath now. And look at the spellings of her. Her greatest oath was but by Saint Loy, and she was clept Madam Eglantine. Notice the spellings. Madam would have E at the end. Clept, this is what? Called. Full well she song the service divine. I would particularly like you to notice the spellings that are used here for divine. Notice this part. Well, after this vowel, no double L. Single L is used. Whereas in modern English, what do? We use double L. Same goes with this vowel. After the vowel, single L is used. What we do? We use double L. Entuned in her nose full seemly and French. This is French, by the way. All right. I hope you know how, Sh and sh sounds were interchangeably represented in the Old English and towards the first half of the Middle English. So this is our French. And French spec. This is spec. This now has become spoke. This is how languages evolve. This is how they grow. This is how, with the passage of time, they change. The sounds change. Full, fair, and fetisly. I hope you understand this much of the text. I'll show you one more slide from the text, and we will talk about some more features. For doing that, I would change the color for the coding of the text so that we could, retain it in our memory. Coming to the text, after the school of Stanford at Bow, after the school of Stanford at Bow, notice this French. I'll take you to the slide that we did earlier. Notice this spelling. I'll take you back, this blue one. Compare it with the spellings of French that are given there. Here. Do you remember what did we talk about this? Ch and sh sound. So, this ch and sh sound was, gradually developed as separate sounds later on in the history. At Chaucer's time, this is how it was represented. For French of Paris was to her unknown. Please notice this word, unknown. What we say is unknown. Where is that N? We talk about this. This is the influence of the surroundings. This is the influence of the, the other, dialects that were around. We would talk about this. At met well ye taught was she with all. She let know, now we use let. Here it is lit. No morsel from her lips. Here double P is used. Compare this with the previous choices of full and well. Single L's were used after the vowels. Here double is used. Why? It is followed by something after that as a plural. So, she let no morsel from her lips fall, nay, wet her fingers in her sauce dip. So, she was, she had very good manners, she was well educated, and while she would eat, she would not let her morsel fall, she would eat with all the manner and mannerism, and she would not dip her fingers in the, the sauce. This is how Chaucer is actually pen picturing the character of Prioress for us. Well could she carry a morsel. Look at the spellings of carry. Do we write it like this? No, of course we do not. And well keep. Look at the spellings. Kepe, it becomes if we read it like that. That no drop. So this keep actually was written like this. Drop with additional E. That no drop ni fell up on her breast. In courtesy, she was set full much her list. This is the word list. We would talk about the influence that created this as well. Her overlip wiped she so clean. Also notice the word clean. Her we have already seen. That in her cup was no farthing seen. We can notice a pattern here for both the words. And the last word that I'd like you to notice is cop, not cup as we speak today. Well, my dear students, I hope that you would have noticed while analyzing the text, I have pointed out certain changes in pronunciation. I have pointed out how certain words were written at that time, or how they were spelled, or how they were pronounced. There are certain other observations that I'd like to share with you. These observations include, some comments on what we have already talked about. In fact, my dear students, the language of Chaucer may be taken as a representation of, as rather an accurate representation of the dialect of London, the standard dialect during the 14th century period. It is prevailing in East Midland with some southern and Kentish features. So what I want to say is two things. A, Chaucer's language is mainly the dialect of East Midland that became the language of London, thus became the standard language later on. However, it has some influence of other dialects, the southern dialects, as well as the Kentish features are found in this language. The latter are a little more prominent in Chaucer than in the non-literary London documents of the same times because, of course, this was literature, so they are found more. Among the usual East Midland developments that you noticed in the text, this line I am quoting again from the same text. Then longen folk to goon on pilgrimage. This goon is actually to go. So this is actually gone on pilgrimage. This O sound that we produce here, in Old English it was produced as gan, a sound. In Old English, when it shifted to Middle English, it became O sound. So, then longen folk to gone on pilgrimage. This is how it was used in Chaucer's times during the Middle English period.